This is the EcoThink Podcast, where we go down climate change rabbit holes so you don't have to. My name is Maia Carolsfeld.
And I'm Yuko, and we are a pair of eco-geeks who love podcasts and science. We actually met working for an environmental NGO in Victoria, Canada, and have been friends ever since.
Yep, and we've been talking about doing this podcast for a long time.
No kidding, at least a year, and in every single car ride we did for work.
Which there were quite a lot of. We are recording this podcast on the unceded territory of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, and are very grateful for all of the knowledge, wisdom, and care the Indigenous peoples of this region have put into the environment and still are to this day on what is now called Vancouver Island.
Yes, and I hope we can bring some of those knowledge holders onto this podcast to learn a little bit more from them very soon.
Well, how about let's tell our listeners what they can expect during this podcast?
Sure, the EcoThink Podcast is where you will join Maia and I as we discuss a STEAM topic. That's science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. STEAM.
And because this is the EcoThink Podcast, we are going to focus on how each of these topics relate to climate change and social justice, which are two fields near and dear to both of our hearts.
And the best bit is that this podcast is in no way going to feel like a boring lecture or a pedantic and patronizing podcast. Thing is, we are coming to these topics as nerds first.
Each podcast, Yuko and I will take a topic and go down a bit of an internet rabbit hole, and we will record our discussions on what we have found. This means we'll discuss scientific articles, news stories, interviews, books, and pretty much anything we can find on the topic. We'll break down any jargon or boring bits in order to make sure that these conversations are accessible for absolutely everyone.
Not to mention, we'll also be talking with some of Canada's and the world's most knowledgeable people. You get to hear our thoughts on the research we have done and hear us ask experts and people in the field.
Wouldn't it be amazing if we could get some of our dream guests on this podcast?
Absolutely. I would love to interview Dr. Ayana Elizabeth Johnson one day.
Well, maybe we can make that happen.
In the meantime, we also plan to end each episode with actionable advice on what you, our lovely fellow eco-geek, can do to help tackle these climate change and social justice issues.
Precisely. Each episode will break down silos, build up amazement, and bring on action.
I love a good alliteration. Break down, build up, and bring on.
I thought you might like it.
The first season of the EcoGeek podcast will air on the 1st of March 2021 with a new episode released every week.
Visit www.ecothinkproductions.com to learn more, and make sure to hit follow on wherever you're listening to this podcast so that you don't miss a single episode.